So we have a movie here that you guys might not have heard of, but I was asked to put out a press release that promote horror and kind of check it out and give it a review. So not really, sort of a screener review. It is available now on YouTube, but it did hit festivals, I guess, before, but now it's available there. So I will, regardless, kind of keep this spoiler free since I'm going to assume that many of you have not seen this film. And I will try to remember to include a link to the film down below. So if you guys are interested in or just want to skip this review and watch it first, you guys can do that. Then come back and kind of see what I had to say about it. You guys are free to do that as well. But regardless, we'll jump into this, starting with the IMDb plot here. When Kate Andrews' perfect life in her dream home implodes under her partner's sadistic psychological brutality and her medication-fueled hallucinations. All right, a lot to be said there. But yeah, so this one, like I said, is available now on YouTube, so we'll try to kind of not give away the ending. You guys can watch it at any time you guys want. It starts, kind of interesting in a way, we don't normally see a horror movie, kind of start off, or something that I've seen many people do in a while, and that's kind of fly a kite. Kind of Kate is out there, standing in a park, in a scene, whether you want to take this scene as reality of happening or not, I think it does, but almost feels like it's not. As she's just there in the park flying this kite and kind of enjoying the moment, taking it in and so forth. Kind of a happy scene to kind of start this movie before a lot of unhappiness is about to start. Like it says there, she thinks that, that life is good, and it kind of, as she goes home, you think that maybe life is good for her. But then, after seeing her partner and not too long after them having some interaction, things quickly go bad, and he's going to basically take out some of his aggression on her kite, which is not going to make her happy and kind of make her upset. And this is just the beginning. We're going to see, as this kind of goes along, several scenes where you think things are fine amongst the two. Everything kind of starts off fine. But then something will trigger him and usually ended up then him abusing her, whether it's physically or mentally, or both. And then, that's going to lead to more spiraling out of control for her as the film kind of goes on. So you're going to get a mix of that, as we go. Scenes of them and everything is fine and whatever. But then, she might seem to do, one thing that kind of makes him mad, and then it's all downhill from there. The movie here on IMDb says horror, and I think before it kind of delves into horror, you're going to have to wait. And I guess, as this film kind of started and kind of rolled in, maybe about, a quarter of the way or so, even maybe halfway, I was kind of worrying, where is the horror? There is going to be horror, you're going to have to be patient before we kind of get to that point. I would think before that, I would say, maybe if you want to say psychological horror, maybe it delves into that maybe a little bit, sooner than the true regular horror that we're used to, which will make an appearance. Other than that, there's a little bit of drama and thriller to it as well, as we do a little bit of building of kind of breaking her down, in a sad way. She is going to struggle mentally. She's going to struggle from the domestic abuse and the, just the mentalness of it from him. So I would say, if maybe you're watching this and you've been a victim of domestic abuse, or you've struggled, had mental issues or abuse issues with a partner or so forth, this might be triggering. This might, be a little rough to get through. So you might, want to take that warning. I don't know. I guess if that happens to you, but you also watch horror movies, then maybe you watch them for a reason as an escape or to relate to. Sometimes horror does that for you. But just kind of a slight warning there. I didn't think they pushed anything over the top. I think they did what was needed. I should say that the film is 50 minutes. So it's kind of in this kind of gray territory. I kind of at the first I was thinking short film, but it is a little long for a short film, but not what we typically think of for a feature, which is usually about an hour and 20 minutes or so. I don't know the reason for that. I don't know if they just they got everything they wanted, or it was a budget thing or whatever. But I think they did kind of got the point across and got what they needed to in this movie. So 50 minutes didn't hurt it one way or the other. I think they got their point across. You were able to develop her character and show the abuse that they needed to, and then kind of show what was going on in her mind and so forth, what they needed to. And then we're able to, inject that horror and kind of wrap it up the way they wanted to. So while it is an odd, thing to be at 50 minutes, I think they squeezed it in. And certainly they could have expanded a few things, but, I'm okay with it. Sometimes you don't need all that extraness and scenes to just have scenes. So yeah, I was, like I said, a little worried to kind of start because I'm like, okay, where's the horror in this? You guys know I get a little anxious and I always, a person looking for the blood and guts and so forth. So I was a little anxious to kind of start, as this movie kind of started to roll on, are we going to get to this point? Is it ever going to happen and so forth? But it will happen. I'm not going to spoil anything for you guys. But it will kind of delve into that territory, in probably a couple of ways. And so, if you're kind of like me and kind of like, as you're kind of watching the beginning of this, wondering, is it happening or not? It will happen. You just kind of have to be patient with it. I'm not going to say it's slow burn. I think they kind of get to the point, but it's just that the horror is not going to come till the end or towards the back half of it. So again, only being 50 minutes, not a great wait, but sometimes people like me are a little impatient. We want our blood, we want our guts, and let's do this. The acting is okay. I think obviously a lot of it is on the actress who's playing Kate. Because the story is from her point of view, and it is her battle of what to do with this domestic abuse, what to do with this mental aspect, and mental challenge that she's going through. So again, if this is something that you've gone through, maybe you can relate and then kind of judge her character a little bit more and so forth, whether how real it did seem or not. But at least I think they do enough to kind of set up and try to display that in a fairly good way to get where they're trying to go with the film. Definitely an interesting ending. Again, I'm not going to give that away. It kind of comes full circle there, and I could say as a, you guys know, if you guys watch my reviews, what I like, and kind of the way it ended was like, okay, that works for me. Maybe not the way many of you may have wanted to kind of see things go, but okay, fine. Yeah, so again, a little hard to judge overall, since I don't usually give short films a score because they're short, but this one is kind of in between, so I don't know. So I think I'm going to give it 2.5 pools of blood out of 5, somewhere in the middle. Like I said, it finally did get to the horror, and did a decent job of that. Again, not, a slasher, not a film meant to be huge on blood and guts and so forth. So, I can't be too harsh on it in that way. It is a lot bit more about the psychological horror and what she goes through. Um, they do a decent job with the mix of there's scenes that you can definitely tell are in reality, and then others, is she hallucinating, is this a dream, and then you were able to maybe, I'm gonna say, not give you huge scares or whatever, but at least kind of maybe delve in the horror direction in that way as well. So at least give you something a little decent there. And definitely it's going to pick up obviously in the second half of the film. So again, if you get kind of anxious like me and want a little bit more going on, you just have to kind of get through that opening half of the film, and then once she kind of spirals a little bit and kind of gets a little bit more into the hallucinations and so forth. Then we kind of get into more of the horror realm, and then a little bit more excitement for you for you guys who maybe don't want to, or not wanting to get too much focused on the domestic part of it and the abuse part of it. But overall, I thought they did a solid job of displaying what they wanted to display here. So it is a solid effort all around. Well, maybe not everything, my total type of film, but, still was a good effort here. And again, it is minimal characters here, focus again a lot on her. So I don't think, the acting totally gets away from it. I think they did a solid job enough. So yeah, I'm going to give it 2.5 pools of blood. And that is out of 5 for this one. And again, the link will be down below if I remember. Hopefully we'll remember to put that there, so you guys can watch. And definitely this is one of those ones where, since you guys can kind of watch it after I've talked about it, or even before, hopefully you guys can throw in a comment down in the comment section, and kind of share your thoughts on it, and what you thought, and so forth. So with that, horoscorereviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all my reviews written in video. Certainly tons of video reviews for a while now, so you can like, subscribe, and do everything else that everybody wants you to do here on YouTube. If not, no worries, it is okay. I thank you for your time regardless. Blue Sky and Facebook information down below. Feel free, if you do watch the film, to reach out and talk about it there with me, and other horror as well. And definitely down in the comment section, again, feel free, once you've kind of seen it, post a review of your own, or share just your comments. Feel free to do so. And definitely even on the film's site, if you can comment there, I'm sure they would appreciate it. So with that, I will catch you on the next review, horror fans.